Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part three of our conversation on decisions. We talked about the power of decisions. We're talking about feeling confident when making decisions. Part one was where I introduced you to Amy, which is your prefrontal cortex. Amy is your emotion center. It's your emotional brain. Amy is really focused. This is your amygdala, by the way, and I really call her Amy so that you can see that she does have a reaction and identity. It's important for you to separate that side of your brain, from the other side of the brain that I introduced in part two. So Amy has three specific goals that she's always aiming for. Conserving energy, which means taking the least, spending the least amount of work and least amount of effort, taking the path of least resistance. And then she's also looking for immediate pleasure, which is instant gratification. And then the third thing she's always looking for is to avoid danger, which is the unknown. Anything she's not familiar with, she will find that to be a danger. It does not actually have to be dangerous. So as we discussed, because of those three specific things that she's looking for, she will interfere with your decision making if you don't realize that she's not the only side of your brain that you need to connect to make a decision. Most women do make decisions from survival mode, which is Amy, right? Because she is the first part of your brain that reacts when you're facing a decision, especially a financial decision. And then you have, on the other hand, other side of your brain, you have your prefrontal cortex. This is your CEO brain, your executive center. This part of your brain has three superpowers. Your prefrontal cortex, which is Penny, she sees the future. She sees the vision. She can fast forward and say, hey, I see where this decision takes us into our life. She can fast forward and say, I see all of the obstacles that are going to be along the way, and I can guarantee that I will show up for it. I will overcome them. Also, the third thing that she's really good at is not only identifying those obstacles, but like really gauging your willingness to overcome any obstacles and to become your own guarantee of success. So this is the reason this is possible for Penny is because Penny is future focused. Penny has your best interest at heart. When she's making decisions for you, when Penny is observing the decision, she's asking three specific questions. And I want to pull them here because I don't want to get the questions that Amy is going to ask you. Amy is going to ask you, what if this is a scam? Especially when the financial decision isn't going to get her instant gratification. She's trying to avoid danger. So if she feels like she doesn't understand, it's going to create a little bit of effort, then that's the unknown. If you have to change something about your current lifestyle to achieve the goals, that's the unknown. So she's going to be freaking out about that. So she's going to be like, is this a scam? What if we get scammed? What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? Right? This is what Amy is thinking about. But here's what Penny is asking you when you're facing a decision. Penny is not worried about if it's going to fail or not. She's thinking, she's going to ask you these three specific decisions, the three specific questions here. Can we see the vision? Are we willing to do the work? Can we solve for the obstacles? These are the questions that Penny is going to ask you. Now, a lot of people say you need to make decisions. You need to take the emotions out of the decision. And this is a mistake because everything we do is because of emotions. So you really need Amy to be part of the conversation. Remember, she's your emotional brain. She's the one that discharges all the emotions. So you want her part of the conversation. The war we feel inside of us that create us to slow down and pause is because we have Amy who's freaking out. She wants instant gratification. And then Penny who's looking to the future and is ready to do the work. When they're not on the same page, you feel that war. And that's what we talked about on part two of this conversation. So today I want to talk to you about the fact that since you're usually making decisions from a survival place from Amy. I want you to create your own framework that's going to help you make decisions by combining Amy's opinion with Penny, so that you are making decisions using powerful emotions, and then you also have your own back. This is really important. When you make when you're facing a financial decision, if your immediate reaction, and I want you to notice it, if immediately you're thinking about how much is it going to cost me? How much money am I going to lose? What's the damage? Any of those type of questions, it's coming straight from Amy, from fear of the unknown. And if you can recognize that, then you can actually start working through the framework that I'm going to teach you today. Because every time you make a decision from Amy only, you're guaranteeing to create disconnection. Because what I see with my clients working with me is they make decisions and then they have regrets later. So we work on them creating a framework of decision making that no longer leaves room for regret. You can actually live a life where you don't have regrets. And when I'm talking about regrets, is this state of mind where you're constantly looping back into what you did wrong, what you missed out on, how you could have done it better, how you're a failure, how you never have it figured out, how hard life is, how it's just coming at you. You wish you would have done it differently. You should have known better. You should have done it differently. All of these thoughts are not useful. They're very hurtful, very dangerous thoughts to think about. But this is the life that the women that I work with find themselves in until we start working together and creating a protocol that allows them to respect themselves so much that they give it the attention it deserves to make decisions that feel aligned. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if we haven't met, my name is Christiane David, and I'm a life and money coach with Green World Legacy. I teach high earning women how to master their finances through emotional mastery. I teach women how to build financial confidence, and decision making is a very powerful part of this conversation. A woman who can make financial decisions with confidence and then has no regret afterwards, even a week or two or a month later or 6 months or a year later, this is a very powerful woman because she moves through life swiftly. One of the dangerous things that we tell ourselves when it comes to financial decisions is I have to think about it. The only reason you feel the need to think about a decision is because you have not learned how to understand what's happening inside of your brain. There is Amy who has an opinion and Penny who has an opinion. And then you feel the discomfort of these two different opinions, and you think you need to think about it. You think you need to make a list of pros and cons. You think you need to do more research, but all this does, it takes away your own integrity, your own credentials with yourself. Because every time you slow down to think about it, you're telling yourself you're not reliable. But what I'm teaching you is how to trust yourself so that the decision isn't the thing that changes everything. You become the thing that changes everything because you know how to make decisions and move forward. Because a decision is not a decision until you actually act on it, which is why you want a framework that you can lean upon so that at any given moment, no matter how you're doing, whether it's the time of your month or your hormones are wackety, maybe you're going through perimenopause and you no longer trust your emotional state, or you're trying to figure out what's going on hormonally, you can have the decision framework to lean back on. You don't need to pause your life until you get your health together to continue to make financial decisions. This is very useful when you have a business, when you run a family, when you run a high position at a job, on an employment. When you have an employment, when you have a life, you need to be able to make decisions on the go, on the fly. And this is a financial confident woman. This is what I want for you. So how do you know if you're a yes or no? And here's what's so important about this question. So many women live in decision debt. I'm going to think about it. I need to do more research. Give me a couple of days. All of this is leaving you in indecision. And what that does is just triggers your nervous system negatively. I recorded a podcast where I talked about women trying to solve their energy problems finding healing and alignment in life and doing all of these things, while what really needs to be addressed is money. Money is the big muscle, and it's the most accurate part of your life, that the minute you solve for that and organize and create a system around it, and it makes sense and is aligned with your true desires, everything else that you want in life has to fall into place. So I want to invite you to look at how you make financial decisions. This is what determines or shows you your relationship with money. And if you can see that your relationship with money deserves more attention, because right now making financial decisions is kind of wobbly. Today you're going towards this specific framework. Tomorrow you're using this specific standard. You don't actually have the set standard that you follow through every single time, which makes decision making unreliable for you. Then this conversation is for you. I want you to watch this, take notes, and be sure to also catch part 1 and part 2, because I have found with my clients that the more they understand how their brain works, the better and more confident they become when it comes to money. And then when you are confident with money, it just ripples into the remainder of your life. This work, my friend, I want you to understand how important it is, because as the mother of your household or the CEO of your own life, decision making is a very important part. So we talked about Amy, who likes to be the one to react immediately, jump to the decision, especially when she can see, oh, this is going to give me instant gratification, or, oh, I don't have to extend a lot of energy. As a matter of fact, I could just like be numb and be unconscious, and we can just still get the pleasure from this. Oh, this is going to be immediate pleasure, and I don't have to extend energy or effort, and it's just going to happen for me. So, for instance, ice cream, right? Food is one huge part of instant gratification. Buying food, eating ice cream, eating sugar, those are things that satisfy, created dopamine, dumps a huge amount of dopamine in our system. Spending money on things dumps a huge level of dopamine in our system. And so you want to train yourself to combine the opinion of Amy and Penny to make decisions. You want to train yourself to be a yes and an or a no. It doesn't have to be a yes. If you're facing a financial decision, you have to understand it's not about saying yes. It's about making a decision, saying either yes or no. Because either one of these two things move you forward. Versus telling yourself, I need to think about it, it keeps you stagnant. Stagnation creates more pressure. Pressure is what adds stress. And then all of a sudden, money feels hard. Money was never supposed to be hard, my friend. So decision making don't have to be hard. So I want to walk you through the framework that you want to be able to use for yourself to decide, am I a yes? Am I a no? And then say it and then go forward with it. So first and foremost, remember, Amy is your emotional brain. Now, here's a tip that you're probably never going to find out anywhere else except for here. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to make you feel very powerful. Amy can't actually take actions by herself. What happens is when women make decisions from Amy, which is from survival mode, is you have decided to ignore Penny's opinion. It was never before, because Amy was responsible for making you take actions. So you have an emotion that comes from a thought. You decide to act on that emotion. It's not actually just automatic, like you acting without realizing, or like you're forced to. We act out of willingness. Even if it's unconscious willingness, we make the decision unconsciously to act from the emotion. So when you look back and you think about your decisions and you have some regrets, and you're looking back and thinking, I don't know how I got here. I don't know how I did this. It's not because you were forced to, or someone scammed you into the decision. You had decided to numb Penny's opinion. And I want to teach you how to take both of them into consideration. So remember, Penny is the one looking forward in the future. She's always going to be looking out for your best interest, but she also can't work without Amy, because Amy, since she's your emotional brain, you need these emotions to be able to move forward. Otherwise, you'll be like a robot. And we've seen people who try to numb their emotions, they just create more chaos in their lives. So I don't want that for you. I don't want you to be a robot. I don't want you to be an emotional person just reacting instead of really understanding your emotions. I want you to find that middle place where you're confident, knowing no matter what happens, I'm not afraid of the unknown. I bring the certainty into the uncertainty. And that's where this framework is going to take you. The framework is peace. The first step is P, which is pausing, knowing I have two factions in my brain. They're going to have an opinion, and it's up to me to bring them together. So you're going to answer Penny's questions. Do we see the vision? When I'm facing this decision, do I see the vision? Do I see where this outcome, this result that I'm being promised will take me? You have to answer that question. Once you answer that question, the next question is, what are the obstacles that I'm going to be facing along the way? What are the obstacles that I'm going to put in my way, right? You answer that question. The third question is, am I willing to do the work and to go all in and put everything on the table to achieve these results? Those are the three most important questions you want to ask yourself. And this is what commitment is huge, because the minute you answer these questions, this is where you pause. Remember, P is the first step. You pause to answer these questions. You pause to determine how committed you are to this moment. You have the answer to this question. The second part is E, which is evaluating. Once you have the answer to these questions, you want to evaluate what is the emotional experience I'm having in this moment of the decision. Is this experience, this emotional experience, is this expansive or is this shrinking me? Is it contracting me? These are the only two feelings you want to check with your body. How am I feeling about this decision? If I go forward with it, is it giving me expansion? And you will notice it in your body. Is it making me feel contracted? You will also notice it. But you can only be able to do this assessment if you've answered those three questions, you've paused. And this doesn't have to take 2 hours. It's a moment in time. You're in a conversation and you can do this in 2 seconds. Really, because remember, Penny is the one doing the work. She's ahead of you. She's already fast forwarding the future. She's already tapping into your potential. She's already tapping into your capacity. She has the answers. You just need to get the answers, and then you'll be able to evaluate. How am I feeling emotionally right now? When you acknowledge your emotional state, acknowledge it. A lot of times fear comes up, especially if you're leaning towards a yes. Fear will come up, and that is normal, my friend. So many women want to make decisions and run away from fear. We never want to do that, because fear is truly the excitement that Penny is anticipating about what's possible for you. And if you reframe it that way, this gets you excited, because whether you say yes or you say no and you feel the fear, it's the excitement of the next version of you. Because if you say no, whatever the decision is, whatever the thing you were thinking about is, you are still going to a next version of yourself, the version who said no, and how you deal with yourself afterwards. So you want to be able to assess, how am I feeling in my body with this situation, with this emotion? You want to acknowledge the fear and recognize it's normal, it's okay to be here, I welcome it, I'm excited for the next version of myself. And then you want to execute, which is why you want to reframe the fear. Because if you use fear against yourself, you won't be able to execute. You will stagnate in indecision. Execution means saying, yes, I'm going for it. No, I'm not going for it. Literally decide right in the moment. You never need to wait to make a decision. I'm going to repeat that, because that's going to blow your mind. You never need to wait to make a decision. You can make a decision on the spot. Now, you may tell yourself, oh, I need some time to think about it. I need to do some research. Yes, I'll give you leeway to do that. But you don't actually need to do all that, because you could just make the decision in the moment. If you are connected to your body, you can tap into yourself and make the decision. And which is why the second part, the last part, I skipped C, which was choose, to decide. And executing is where you actually have your back. So let me backtrack that. So you have P's, which is P is pausing, and A is acknowledging the emotion that you're feeling in the moment. And E, oh my gosh, I'm like totally like botching this. P is pausing, and E is evaluating, and then A is acknowledging, and then C is choosing, which is saying yes or no. And then E is executing, which means move out and move forward. Okay? This is so important, my friend. If you follow this framework, then you can lean on this and you don't have to constantly be thinking, am I feeling happy today? Am I feeling bad today? So many women make decisions from survival mode, from fear, from anxiety, from guilt and shame. And those are not the emotions you want to tap into to make powerful decisions, especially if you want to get used to being a decisive person and also be a person that has your back. And when you make the decision using the peace framework, the most important part is not the decision at this moment. It's you having your back. It's who do you become once you've made a decision? You want to become your best friend, your cheerleader, and also your number one fan. I've got this. I was made for this. I see this through. I make a return on investment. I make this happen. It doesn't just happen to me. This is how a financial confident woman makes decision. All right, my friends, this was the last installment of our Conversations on Decisions. If you have any questions about this, I want you to drop it in the comments. In the meantime, if you want to go further with this work and build financial confidence from the ground up, you can schedule a free consultation through the link in the comments. And I want to invite you to listen to the Guilt Free Spending podcast, because on that podcast, I break down everything that's going on inside of you mentally, energetically, that creates the relationship you have with money right now. And these are the things you do to build financial confidence. I see you in the next live.